I'm happy and delighted to be here today, this evening here in Malawi. I think this platform gives me an opportunity to share what my project is all about. I'm still in the early stages of my research. I haven't yet collected and done the primary research, but I'm about to start that. So I'm hoping that comments and suggestions, questions from this session will also help me in shaping my research. My project is all about the impact of global policies, especially on child labor ban policies, on the local development trajectories in the case of Malawi. I'm looking at what the policies mean to the lives of children on the ground and their families and their communities. I'll be focusing on my research will focus on two crops, tobacco and tea. So I'm being supervised by Dr. Robson, Dr. Spike Clay, and Professor Holloway from the University of Hull. This is the outline of my presentation. I'll start with introduction and then a little bit about child labor and why the problem that we have that has prompted me to do this study, as well as the theoretical background that is underpinning my research and a little bit of the goals and aims of my research. I just want to give a short overview of Malawi. Malawi is a small southeastern country, southeastern African country, and it has a population of around 17 million, according to World Bank 2019, as well as in Malawi, almost 84% of our population live in the rural areas. That's according to the National Statistics Office of Malawi. And most of our population, around 69, they live under the poverty line, according to the World Bank 2016 data. And just to give you an overview of the primary school enrollment, the gross primary school enrollment is around 145%. It means there are more of children that we are not supposed to be in that class that are in that class. For example, in the rural areas, it might be older children, 8, 9, studying standard 1, which is grade 1. While in the cities, most of the times you find underage pupils, 5, 4, starting standard 1. So that's why we have over 100% enrollment. Just an overview of child labor. I'll define child labor based on the ILO definition. That is, they define child labor as a labor that takes most of the time of a child, or that prevents a child from schooling, playing, and having the mental development, or that physically can harm a child. And it goes on the worst forms of child labor to include all practices of slavery, including child trafficking, bondage labor, forced labor, prostitution, which harm the physical and mental health of the child. In your picture to the right, those are the children. The first one is, it was taken from the US. The source is the National Archives of the US. Those were children working in the factories. That was in the 19th century. And down there, that's a boy working in the tobacco field. That's in Malawi. So you can see that tobacco and as well, they are classified as hazardous to children, and they are not, children are not supposed to work in these two value chains. Just to provide an overview of child labor in Malawi. In 2015, the the government, in conjunction and also funded by the International Labour Organization, they conducted a survey on child labor in Malawi, and they found that around 48% of Malawian children do some kind of work, and about 38% of the children in that year, they were involved in child labor, in work that is classified to be child labor. And around 20%, 21% of the children that were surveyed were involved in hazardous work. That also includes work in the value chains of tobacco and tea. Where do most of the children that are involved in work and child labor do their work? 72% of the children do their work in agriculture. I think that this is also in line with literature, which shows that most of the work, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, most of the work that children do, it is in an agricultural situation. And also 23% they're involved in domestic work, while 3% in wholesale and retail, and others take 2% of the children that are involved in work that is classified as child labor. So what is the problem? The Malawi government enacted an Employment Act in 2000 in following up in operationalizing the ILO's Convention 138 on the minimum age, as well as 182 on the worst form of child labor. So specifically, the Section 21 of the Employment Act of 2000 is against the exploitative work that children are put into. The subsection 1, it says no one shall employ an underage child, under 14 child. And the subsection goes on to clarify that subsection 1 about no one should not employ someone that is under 14. This do not apply in homes and training institutions. So a child is underage, for example, less than 14 of age, if they are doing work in homes and schools, that is defined as is not defined as child labor in the case of Malawi. And Section 22 is more on against hazardous work that children are involved in. So they're saying no person between 14 and 18 years of age will be employed in any occupation considered likely to harm their health, safety, and also disrupt their education and also their moral development. Any work that is considered to be detrimental to their attendance at school or vocational training, that is considered to be worst forms of child labor. And that is where, that is why tobacco production, tobacco value chain, as well as tea value chains, they are considered to be hazardous work in the case of Malawi. Tobacco is around health as well as the time that children spend in working in the tobacco sector. In the tea sector, it's mostly about the times that most of the work involved in tea takes. It coincides with schooling time. So because of that, it was also included in the worst forms of child labor in the case of Malawi. So under 18-year-olds were banned from working in the tobacco sectors from early 2000s. Just after the enactment of the Employment Act of 2000. And this was mostly led by the private sector, actors mainly in tobacco value chain as well as in tea value chain that are also connected to the global value chain. However, recent reports have indicated that under 18-year-olds continue to be involved in tobacco production and as well as in tea production. For example, in 2019, The Guardian reported that some of Malawian tobacco was prevented from being exported to the US because of child labor involvement in their production. And in 2021, the Guardian also reported that the UK, the courts rebuffed the lawyers that were representing the multinationals about dropping the issues, dropping the case around involvement of children in the production and variation of tobacco. So this means that child labor is still persisting, and this has also increased spotlight for these food crops, especially tobacco. And because of that, there is a lot of investment that is coming from the private sector, as well as the public sector and international organizations such as the ILO. They're implementing a number of projects in the country. So why this research? As there is increased spotlight and investment in the tobacco and tea sectors in Malawi in trying to stop children from working, stopping child labor, or withdrawing children from exploitative work. There's a lot of investment, and as a response to the calls, this project is as a result of a response to calls from other researchers, because the bans on the children working in and tobacco, the child labor bans, these are international policies that were indigenized in Malawi through various laws to make them work here. And as with any public policy, it has to be tested. There has to be evidence whether it is working in the best interest of the people that were meant to be protected by such policies. So everything that the policymakers, both international policymakers and the local policymakers here, are doing in trying to protect children should be the best interest of children should be considered. This was also indicated in the section 3 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. And there has been some authors that have highlighted the positive outcomes of children's work. And some authors have also called for flexibility in terms of approaches that recognizes the benefits that children get when they're involved in some work. That is also sensitive to the contextual issues around where children are spending, being developed, are spending their childhood. So, of course, other authors have also highlighted the dangers that children that are involved in work are subjected to, and this is has been well cited about the dangers, as well as now we are having a growing interest from researchers to learn what other benefits that children get from working at an early stage. So my research is being conducted under the main framework of the international political economy. Political economy is a social science branch that studies the interrelationship among individuals, governments, and also policies. So looking at tea and tobacco, these are very important crops in Malawi, because both they combined, they contribute over 70% of the export earnings that the country gets. So you can also imagine that this might be a lucrative kind of sector where everyone would want to be involved, including children. And also interactions, especially including labor practices in general and children's participation in particular in tea and tobacco, is influenced by politics, public policy, and historical realities. In Malawi, if you talk about tobacco is heavily guarded by policymakers, especially government, because this is a crop that brings a lot of the lion's share. It contributes the lion's share of our total export earnings. So the government does everything to control the growing of the and also the business, the whole value chain of tobacco. Just for your own information, for two types of tobacco that are grown in Malawi, the flue-cured tobacco as well as barley tobacco. Up to now, the flue-cured tobacco farmers, smallholder farmers are not allowed to grow flue-cured tobacco, which is also well priced on the market. And farmers were only allowed to start growing tobacco in the early 90s, in the mid 90s, when we changed from one-party government to multi-party. That's when the government changed the policy. So now smallholder farmers are only allowed to grow barley tobacco, which is on the market compared to flue-cured tobacco, which is assigned to a state, which is a lower price. Therefore, principally the political economy framework fits well with my research, especially the dependency theory, which provides theoretical context in which children's participation in tobacco and tea production should be understood. So this is a brief overview of how I've planned my research. I have 3 research questions that are mainly revolving around. The first question is about what interventions are currently being implemented both in tea and tobacco growing communities that are aimed at ending child labor, also withdrawing children that are already engaged in working in those 2 sectors. And also on the part of families, children, and their communities, what has changed as a result of the interventions that are being implemented. And also both from the policy implementers as well as the communities, the children, the families, the households themselves, what improvements do they think should be factored in to make sure that whatever programs that are being, interventions that are being implemented, they are all in the best interest, they're serving the best interest of the child. So this is mainly qualitative research, but during data collection, apart from doing the focus group discussions, interviews, I also have a survey questionnaire, try to distance myself from some of the questions. As you know, I'm also connected to child labor, apart from engaging the stakeholders, policy implementers, as well as children, their households, the community gatekeepers, and all that. I would also want to know how the communities, how children view issues around children's participation in the labor market, especially in tea and tobacco. So basically, that's some of the work that I've cited, and I'm so happy that some of the people I've cited, they are also here and they are also shaping how this project is going, especially through their publications. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Mavuto. We will stop recording now, as announced.